Namaste. Good evening, everybody. With all my heart, with all my love, I welcome you to our Anamkara meditation program. My privilege to be here with you and enter that space, that sacred space of pure awareness. It's always present. It's always informing our consciousness if we can be attuned to it. And we're going to be talking this evening about sort of a principal way of doing that through mantra. But this field of consciousness that is always present, always holding all that is, uniting all that is just the other side of the mind. And by coming to know that through the practices, through gathering, through people like yourself doing the practices, and then coming this evening, bringing the power of your presence, the power of your practices that you share in this gathering. Yes, even though we're spread out in different physical locations, it's that unified field of consciousness that really unites us and holds us. And the quality of that consciousness is not just bland awareness. That field of consciousness is the field of love. It's the field of compassion. It's the field of wisdom. The boundlessness of these aspects that are all suffused or suffusing consciousness itself. So when we can step out of the mind, that's why we can come to know what Buddha talked about as the four immeasurables: the boundless wisdom, the boundless compassion, the boundless love, the unshakable peace, the boundless rapturous joy. That's always present. That's eternally present. That's unwaveringly present, but not to the mind, because the mind is caught up in the products of the mind. The constant mind stream of all its thoughts and feelings, reactions, conditioned patterns, beliefs in its own limitations that are normalized by all of culture and society. But when we turn to the mystics who challenged the worldview of, we're just little individuals trying to eke out our existence, and did the practices that take us beyond, they discovered the truth and brought that back. So these ancient wisdom traditions around the world keep coming back with the same answer, that the foundation of who we are is this eternal, expansive, infinite being that embraces all and is knowable because its very nature is consciousness. So we gather together to enter that, to contemplate that, to do practices, to become fully aware of that, because it's only through knowing that, directly knowing that, that we can get free of suffering ourselves and also fulfill the highest calling of a human birth, which is to know that and then serve all other beings that they may know it as well and become free of all forms of suffering. So along the way, we're doing everything we can to help relieve the suffering of all beings on this planet. And that's all our brothers and sisters as human beings, but it's all living beings that are suffering under the fires of tyrannical ignorance, really. And that has so polluted the world that we're choking literally on the smoke caused by all these fires that are resulting from all the climate change. So we're stepping out of that and saying, no, there's another way. We can know and live together. We can live and flourish together. We can all flourish together. There's enough resources for all of us to flourish together. As long as there's not a few greedy people who say, no, I want more than anybody should ever have at any time. So that's another issue that we confront as we become more empowered, and empowered to also change how our political and economic systems can then reflect the highest wisdom that we can bring to it. That's what we're endeavoring to do. And being committed to doing that is part of what the path is to be committed to saying, I want to be free and I want all beings to be free. So I want to attain that highest state for the benefit of all. And of course that includes ourselves. And along the way, the difference, the illusion that there are others is also shattered. So that we know that even as we're reaching out to anyone who's suffering, we're reaching out to our own self We're bestowing grace, love, compassion, helping to meet the needs of the poor, people who are suffering, what's going on in the world in ways that we may not be touched by, but we can see it and we can know it and we can reach out through compassion to help relieve that suffering as well. That's part of the practice, because selfless service is another foundational practice. Tonight I wanted to talk about the foundational practice that we do all the time, and I talk about frequently, and that's the practice of mantra. Because mantra is a real stabilizing practice that helps to steady the mind. And the more we're in a tumultuous environment, whether that's personal, whether that's our community, whether that's global, whatever that is, that so stirs the mind, all the more reason we want to take hold of the power of a practice that is empowered, fully empowered, to help transform the mind and stabilize the mind. And mantra has been used as that kind of practice for literally thousands of years, this sacred sound. And so going back to the ancient Upanishads, the ancient texts of Tantra, talking about the very nature of mantra, and that the very word mantra means that which protects. What does it protect us from? The vagaries of the mind, really. Because when we start to inhabit mantra and make use of mantra, and I'll use as an example Om Namah Shivaya, but there are other empowered sacred mantras, and a little bit further on we'll get to the difference between empowered and non-empowered, because it's a significant difference. But it literally starts to change the flow of energy in the body. And so the ancient yogis, when they heard mantras, because another significant aspect of mantra is mantras are not mind-born. They're heard in deep meditation. And countless people, myself included, have heard that and will continue to hear it as you go into these shifts of consciousness where divine sound, unstruck sound, called nada, can be heard arising. And it also takes sound form. And those sound forms from everything from Om to Om Namah Shivaya to Om Kalima to Om Mani Padme Hum, these mantras can be heard arising spontaneously. They're arising from a level of consciousness that when we follow mantra back to that source, it's like if you heard a flute player off in the forest and you could just barely hear the sounds, but you kept tuning in and following the sound and you got to its source. That's what we're doing with mantra. But we're starting by saying it or saying it silently to ourselves or chanting it out loud. That's just so the gross mind can get attuned to what's there. That's going to help it listen. Listen to the arising of mantra. Until it gets to that point, it says it silently, becomes absorbed in it silently. With the awareness of, I am that, because mantra is a throb of your sublime infinite nature. It's the infinite in sound form. It's the divine in sound form. So by becoming immersed in that, by dissolving our little individuality in that, by saying, rather than constantly repeating the mantra of, I'm a man, I'm a woman, I'm happy, I'm sad, I like this, I don't like that, what am I going to do here? Those mantras, well, we know where they take us. They take us all through the maze of the ordinary mind all day long. So mantra arises from a shift in that state of consciousness. And then we start to get to know, what's the truth of who we are? What's not, I am some little thing. What is, I am the auspicious one. I am the infinite. I am the sublime nature of universal consciousness, suffused with boundless wisdom, love, compassion, and joy. That I can know that. That is in a state of knowing that. So it's a state of consciousness and a state of experience. It's not related to, is the body comfortable? Is the mind got all its desires satisfied? No, these are uncaused. So it's not the happiness that arises because I got what I wanted, or the sadness that arises because something left and I lost what I wanted. These are uncaused states of being suffused with these qualities. So in the yoga tradition, when we talk about becoming absorbed in mantra, it's also tied into the entire paradigm around Kundalini. Kundalini Shakti, the power of revelation and transformation, is also the power of creativity. It's what creates this body. It's what creates the physical body and every component of it. So that's one face of Kundalini. The hidden face of Kundalini is that consciousness that knows the infinitude of being. But it has created the physical body. It creates the subtle body. The subtle body is the mind. And so all thoughts, all experiences of mind are components of contracted Kundalini Shakti. We want to set it free so it's expanded again, so we know the infinitude of being rather than the finite nature of a mind and body. Becoming absorbed in mantra helps to transform our consciousness so that we can see past the vehicle of mind, past the vehicle of body, past the vehicle of the causal body. That's what we know in deep sleep state. It's just awareness of nothingness. It's the black void. No mind is arising, no body experience. There's just the subtle seed of limited eye awareness that causes everything else. That's why it's called the causal body. So when we're repeating mantra and repeating it silently, say, so for instance, in a meditation practice that we do here each Thursday, we chant the mantra for a bit, that's out loud. That has certain benefits, not only for ourselves, but for the environment, for putting it out into the world. We're putting the vibration, the throb of the infinite out into the world for the benefit of all beings. And given the nature of the very negative, what's called matrika shaktis, the little mothers, the power of words to create reality, that's being spewed by, politicians and this one and that one, we want mantras going out to help counter that, help dissolve that, disperse that. And I used to see it as very potently when I was doing meditation programs in a federal penitentiary. Because I'd go in there, they'd give me the rattiest room because they didn't care about the inmates. And I'd go in with my trusty harmonium and start chanting Om Namah Shivaya, and the whole atmosphere would change. Though it was still within a prison and just, concrete and steel, but the power of mantra, it's unimpeded. Unimpeded. We invoke that, we can start to be able to discern the impact of that, both on our own state and on what's going on around us and what goes on in relationship to us. So mantra as a sound form born of Kundalini. So it's seen that all the mantras arise from Kundalini Shakti. Kundalini Shakti is the source of mantra. And so when we look at the sort of the subtle physiology of what yogis would talk about, the archetypal nature of the subtle body, that's when we start to talk about things like chakras and nadis. Nadis are channels of energy. The main channel of energy is the sushumna nadi, that runs roughly from the just below the crown of your head down to the base of the spine, and then strung along it like beautiful pearls are the 6 chakras, all of which created by Kundalini Shakti, and all of which have meaning in relationship to how does the yogic practice unfold and take us from the very bound, limited forms of ordinary consciousness to the completely expanded infinitude represented by the Sahasrara and beyond. So it's a map. And I talk about that in The Soul's Journey and also in the book Awakening Kundalini, The Path to Radical Freedom. But it's that central channel, that has 2 other channels. 2 other nadis. One's called the Ida and one's called the Pingala. And those 2 nadis sort of go back and forth, like you would see in the ancient symbol of the caduceus, which is seen as probably an ancient representation of Kundalini Shakti and that whole subtle body paradigm. So the ordinary mind is caught up in Ida and Pingala. Roughly also correspond to two of the gunas. The tamaguna, which is kind of lethargic and unconscious, attached, deadening, and rajaguna, which is very agitated and energized and moving. And so those are kind of the polarities that the mind gets caught in. Whereas the yogis said, well, no, we want to come into that central channel because that's the pathway to go to the state of liberation, the state of transcendence, and also subsuming all that is. That central channel is said to vibrate very evenly with sattva guna. And so it turns out, as you're repeating mantra, Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya, and it's helping to quiet the mind, because now the mind is letting go of this thought, letting go of that thought, letting go of a memory, letting go of the future, and just always coming back to Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya. Oh, with the awareness of Aham, I am. The awareness of Hamsa, I am that auspicious one. Now, the energies, seen as prana, the life force energy, is starting to be pulled from all that movement of the Ida and Pingala nadis and feeds back up from the Muladhara, the base chakra, into the sushumna. So our awareness is starting to move in that central channel. It's part of what Buddha was talking about as the central path, the middle way. The middle way is the way between all the vagaries of mind caught in the Ida and Pingala nadis and entering the sushumna nadi to enter the domain of transcendence and full knowing of the infinitude of being. So that's how these systems have depicted that kind of transition. And when we're engaged in mantra, we're engaged in helping to build that steady wisdom, that sattvic kind of quality of mind. Still a quality of mind, but better to have a stable mind, better to have a quiet mind, than have a mind that's going all over the place. Because not only is it creating suffering, it's also creating lots of karma. So a yogi is both trying to reduce their suffering, but they have an eye for the future. What we're doing here and now, we're going to reap the benefits or the outcomes of that in the future. And so the more we can be steady and come from that place of steady wisdom that's informed by what can then move down from our highest center, the Sahasrara, our unity consciousness, and then infuse this whole subtle body with the wisdom of that loving compassion, that capacity to see all as one's own self and to relate to it with that love and compassion and full embrace. That's all happening automatically as we start to become absorbed in mantra, and especially using it with the breath. Because the breath, as you know, is very much tied to prana, and prana is what also drives the mind. It's why we have all kinds of research, because in my professional background is doing biofeedback and being on the faculty of medical school and doing lectures on the research on biofeedback and neurofeedback. Well, it's very clear that when you start to slow and deepen the breathing, as the yogis were doing for thousands of years, it very much changes our physiology, our neurophysiology, helps to stabilize the body, helps to stabilize the mind, helps to quiet the activity in the brain, so brain waves also shift. And all of that is happening, again, because we're changing the breath. Now we know the physiological roots of that and why it's connected to the vagus nerve and why there's kind of what's called coherent breathing that comes into alignment with a pace that our nervous system recognizes and can match, and it's a deeply, profoundly quieting response in the body. Also helps the immune system, also helps reduce blood pressure, all those kinds of things. Now the yogis weren't interested in all those things. Those are side effects, and they could tell some of them, they didn't have measures for others, But they were interested in, oh, what happens when you start to calm the mind is the spaciousness of the field of awareness begins to be more clearly perceived. So that the automatic movements of mind that take with them our identification, because when a thought arises, we identify with it, a feeling arises, we identify with it, a reaction arises, we identify with it. It's causing all this suffering, it's causing all this agitation, it's causing all that going back and forth and ida and pingala and nadi. Oh, all that's getting calmed down as we go Om Namah Shivaya. Once on the inhalation, Om Namah Shivaya. Once on the exhalation. We're just bringing that, and then as it slows down, it might be Om Namah as the breath comes in, Shivaya as the breath goes out. But slow and deep and steady, smoothing out the waters. Because all the ripples are the movements of mind. And when we calm it down, now we can see through the ocean of thoughts and see clearly what's their source, what's the very foundation of it all. That's the truth of who we are. That's what we're coming home to. So that's what the yogis were talking about, and it continues to be validated to this day. I mean, I can't tell you how many people I've met over the years who have received that kind of grace through a Chaitanya mantra. So part of it has to do with what I began speaking about before, is empowered mantra. Because mantras are arising, and if you can hear it from there, then absolutely, then it's coming to you direct from its source, empowered. But when we receive a mantra, well, you can receive mantras from a book, you can hear it chanted on a YouTube channel, all kinds of sources for it. But what's the root source? And this was where the yogis discerned that, well, when a mantra is being given by somebody who has experienced the fullness, the fruit of mantra, the power of mantra, then that mantra has an empowered component to it that just reading it doesn't. There are texts that will talk about how can you empower a mantra if you didn't receive it from an empowered source, and how many millions of repetitions done with clarity and focus and unwavering attention it takes to do that. And that's been likened to, well, what happens when, if you wanted to make a fire and you didn't have any matches and nobody else had a fire nearby? Well, you rub two sticks together long enough, hard enough, and everything, you can generate the heat that'll generate a fire. Trying to awaken a mantra is like that, only it takes longer. So much easier. So the mantras I've been given from the lineages I've been a part of, I just give them. So that's what we chant here. That's what I pass on here. That's what I pass on through recordings, videos, everything, is these empowered mantras. Another way of understanding it is a mantra can be seen as like an extension cord. Now you can go to a hardware store and buy an extension cord. You can bring it home and plug your lamp into it, but the lamp won't turn on unless the extension cord is plugged in. So a Chaitanya mantra, an empowered mantra, is a mantra that's already plugged in. Right? So when we plug into it, there's power there. That's why I saw so many things happening even in prisons, so many different environments where I was able to bring mantra and chants and see the power just arising in people's lives and experiences transformed, because that's the power of mantra. That's innate, because what it's doing is its resonant frequency is helping their innate power to awaken and become alive and carry their experience forward, the experience of transformation that happens with that. So that's what's going on when we're engaged in mantra. We're engaged in much more than what the ordinary mind tends to say. Now, the ordinary mind makes everything ordinary. So it goes, mantras, words and sounds, and so what, I'm full of my suffering, or I really want this other thing. It just lost in its ordinary world. So we have to let that go and come to the root, the source. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. And at least entertain the openness to say, This is arising. This is right. Let me become quiet enough to see where this arises from spontaneously within. How do I become so subtle that I can be carried by the waves of the power of Shakti, the universal power of consciousness that takes sound form as mantra and serves as a vehicle for taking the individualized consciousness that we consider ourselves to be and bring it back to knowing the infinitude of being, so that we know that as well. The idea is to know both, not either or. It's another thing the mind gets caught in. The mind is an either or instrument, always doing either or, compare and contrast. That's how it operates. The divine is all this and more. All this and more. You're all of it. You're all of it. You keep getting caught in the parts, so you don't get to know the whole. Get to know the whole, and then enjoy the parts, see the parts, help some of the parts, all of that. They're all a part of yourself. So this magnificent transformation of consciousness and direct experience, direct awareness occurs through that absorption in the mantra. Absorption with identification with the mantra. We want to be as identified with mantra and its source as we are with our ordinary mind and what it tells us who we are. I'm a man, I'm a woman, I'm a son, I'm a daughter, I'm a husband, I'm a wife, I'm a this, I'm a that. We say those things with such certainty, and they're actually not true. Not true in the terms of they don't represent your eternal fullness of being. They are attributes of the ephemeral vehicles of mind and body that you inhabit for X number of years, leave, come back, get another one. What's the eternal consciousness that's going through all those different instruments that it has inhabited along the way in the evolution of consciousness? That's what we can get to know. We can get to know the fullness of pure being. That's the intention of spiritual practice, sadhana practice, meditative practice, mantra practice, is to know that directly for ourselves. And so it gives us the absolute certainty. And any time and any place, I know that. That's what we want to be able to have, that experience, and that kind of absolute certainty. We might start out with a belief or a hope, because we've heard it from somebody or we've read it countless times in any number of texts about it. But all yogis, all the mystic traditions emphasize direct experience because that's what you're capable of. So we want to know that and create the conditions for that direct knowing. The conditions are let go of the thought, come back to mantra. Let go of this thought, come back to mantra. As you let go of thought, you're letting go of the identity that went with the thought, the momentum, the conditioned mind that went with that, all that. You're letting that go and coming back to, wait, I am the auspicious one. I am Shiva. Beyond name and form, beyond masculine and feminine, just the auspicious one, the one that is all. Doesn't just embrace it like there's something. Embracing is we use that as a figure of speech, but it's not accurate because it actually is everything. Everything. Every cell in your body, every molecule in your body, every atom in your body, every thought in the mind is Shakti, a throb of that power, that infinite power of consciousness. But it's bound power. Just like nuclear energy that's bound in matter, when you release it, well, it's a nuclear explosion. A little couple of pounds of matter has all that energy. You have more energy than that, bound in the contracted form of mind and body. And so the transformation that occurs, it is really sometimes overwhelming for the ordinary mind as it starts to tap into the magnificence, the grandeur of being beyond ordinary roles and identities. So we have to stay grounded, we have to stay connected and be able to integrate that along the way as well, so that we can know that it's not either or, That's the poor, ordinary mind. No, it's both and. Both and. You're all this and all that is beyond. And that's where mantra takes us. And in the Yoga Chudamani Upanishad, it says, referring to Kundalini, it says, Kundalini is the origin of mantra, which is an embodiment of prana Shakti. It actually produces prana Shakti, and that's what then on a less subtle level than pure Kundalini Shakti starts to create forms, creates the form of mantra. In fact, when you look at the petals of the chakras, and the chakras are depicted as lotus flowers with petals, and when you add up the petals of the 6 chakras, from the Muladhara to the Ajna chakra, you get 50 petals. They represent the 50 letters of the Sanskrit alphabet. So they're throbs of consciousness at different levels, creating all realms of experience through that throb of energy that is Kundalini Shakti, creating the universe through mantra. And out of mantra, because mantra is subtle body. It's the subtle body that creates the physical body. So even the physical body is an expression of that. It's why as people get absorbed in mantra, it can change things physiologically. And I don't mean just like relaxation. It can help heal things. It can help change what's going on in the body. It can help give us a sort of platform of consciousness from which to observe what's going on with the body and be less disturbed, because there's certain things the body is just limited by. But we're not limited. Consciousness is not limited by body states or mind states. That's why the yogis wanted to use mantra to enter the states that set us free from the limitations of mind and body. In the Yoga Shikha Upanishad, it talks about Kundalini Shakti and mantra. So it says, the Kundalini Shakti, which is located in the Muladhara and takes the form of a bindu. Now, bindu I've spoken to you about, as like the black dot at the center, there we are, of Mahakali Yantra. But bindu is a classic form of Shakti, but it's a portal. And it's that place through which all emanation happens, and also all dissolution. So in the Muladhara chakra, the root chakra at the base of the spine, earth element, that's where Kundalini, after it's created all that is, comes to rest, part of it dormant. The part that's dormant is the part that knows the infinitude of being. But the rest is sustaining everything about body, mind, all actions, everything. That's Kundalini in its active form. So Kundalini Shakti, which is located in the Muladhara and takes the form of a bindu, is the sole support of the self. See, so Kundalini Shakti, the eternal, is the support of everything you think of yourself to be. From everything about the body and its entire history to everything about the mind, all rests on the creative power that formed it. That creative power is the eternal. That's the eternal consciousness. The form is ephemeral, right? So your ephemeral notions about yourself rest on eternal. That's what we mean when I talk about the ephemeral rests on the eternal. We don't know rest, complete rest, until we come back to rest on the eternal. When we come back to rest in our divine nature, then the mind has become still. Then the prana has been withdrawn from ida and pingala nadis. Now it's rising in the sushumna nadi. Now it's going to get to the place of transcendence and absolute stillness and all-knowingness, the unity consciousness. All of that's going on just as you say, Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya. It's a pure gift of grace. It's the grace to set us free, moment by moment. Take refuge in mantra every moment, from the moment you wake up till the moment you go to sleep. If the mind needs to act on dharma and be focused on that, fine. But any other time, it's getting itself in trouble. It's getting identified with ignorance and limitation and creating karmas that it's going to have to live out. So keep it centered in the truth of who you are, in Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya. So in other words, the individual soul is supported by Kundalini Shakti, and just as a sprout emerges from the subtle seed, in the same way, nada springs from the subtle prana Shakti. So nada is divine sound, which is Kundalini. The yogi gets a vision of the universal nature of nada, this divine sound, through the svaristhana, or the second chakra. That's one place where it can be first be known and experienced. This state of nada is called pashyanti. Then nada reaches the region of the heart, where a roaring sound like thunder arises. When nada is in the heart, it is called madhyama. Now, the heart chakra is also known as anahata chakra. Anahata means unstruck. So here we can, in that level of meditation, begin to experience this thunderous sound. Sometimes it's even like the roar of Om, right? And it's unstruck. In other words, there's nothing physical making the sound. It's arising just from the movement of Shakti itself is creating the subtle sound that's perceived by subtle consciousness, not by the physical ear. This is not physical sound. Then nada reaches the region of the heart where a roaring sound like thunder arises. And when nada is in the heart, it is called madhyama. Then it moves further up and mixes with pranavayu in the throat region and comes out in the form of gross sound called vaikari. So we're really talking about the levels of speech. Left out the para level, which is the first level. It's a supracausal level. So it goes from the supracausal, which we would say as the state of turiya, the state of transcendent awareness, the state of the consciousness of the infinite, of pure Shakti, Shiva, transcendence, beyond form, beyond name. Starts to take a form that's pashyanti. And that's experienced around the level of the svaristhana. Then up into the anahata, and then that's madhyama. Then up to the throat, that's vaikari. Now we get the gross sound form emerging through our voice. It is this vaikari which dashes against the throat tongue as a soft palate and manifests as the sound of the letters from A to Ksha, the whole alphabet of the Sanskrit language. From a group of letters are formed words, and from a group of words are formed sentences. And all mantras, all the Vedas, scriptures, mythological texts, and the collection of poems originate from this sound. Therefore it is said that Saraswati, the goddess of speech, is located in the Muladhara of all beings. So Saraswati is a name for that aspect of the pure Shakti that gives birth to speech and language and its encoding of wisdom and knowledge. And that's why, as one becomes absorbed in mantra, the pure knowing also begins to unfold. We begin to know and be able to understand scriptures and texts that were just a mystery. I remember reading certain texts even when I was in late high school and early college, and I was interested in these subjects, and I couldn't get them. Then when I received Shaktipat and this awakening of Kundalini and that Shakti was moving and everything, I went back to the same texts and they were clear as day. What had changed? Oh, now my power of understanding was augmented by Shakti itself, because without that initiation, there are whole domains of knowing that the ordinary mind cannot access. They're protected by the Shakti in that way. We need the fullness of Shakti to enter those states so that we can know the power and the knowledge, the wisdom that arises in those states. But we have to have been purified by that process of that awakening and the purification that the Shakti does in the subtle body, the mind, in the physical body, so that it can, be sacred containers for that profound wisdom and knowledge. And it's then used just to serve compassionately, lovingly, kindly all beings, to help all beings become free and to know the truth of who they are. That's what that purification is, freeing us from the limitations of our mind and body, but also transforming the vehicle of mind and body, that it can be the real servant that it was designed to be, the servant of our own divine self, the universal consciousness that is that. It's beyond any selfhood or any notion of selfhood, beyond any notion of form. And like Buddha preferred to just go gate gate, paragate, parasamgate, bodhi swaha, gone, gone, gone beyond, completely beyond. Hail the goer. So may it be. That's you. So may it be that you come to know the fullness of the truth of who you are, that you can enter the royal vehicle of mantra and let it carry you into the direct experience of the infinitude of being. Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya. That potential is there at every repetition of the mantra. The only thing that prevents us from knowing that in the moment is identification with thoughts, feelings, narratives, old reactions, memories, anticipations of the future, fantasies, all that stuff. So easy for the ordinary mind to get identified with. Let it go and know what it is to be identified with pure consciousness, suffused with boundless wisdom, love, compassion, peace, and rapture. That's home. That's where all the practices are drawing us. Whether it's contemplative practices, studying, listening, or doing the practice of mantra and becoming absorbed in that. So this is why yogis would say, no, I do mantra all day long. I do mantra all night long. It gets to the point where if you wake up in the middle of the night, you still hear the mantra going. You fall asleep to Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya. You say, I'm going to wake up in the middle of the night. Oh, it's still going. Go back to sleep. Om Namah Shivaya. Get up in the morning. Om Namah Shivaya. Sit for meditation. Become absorbed in that. Go through the day. Om Namah Shivaya. Always carried then by this river of grace that is mantra. There's nothing more sublime. It's such an extraordinary gift of the infinite, of our own divine self, to the little self, saying, here, come home. You got lost. You got caught up. You got identified with this painful limitation. But grace is always available. The grace is always present. Just shift your attention to Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya. I am the auspicious one. I am in the embrace of the auspicious one. My body is an emanation of the auspicious one. Every molecule, cell, everything in my body is Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya. You can come to know that directly. That's the gift of mantra. I've had that experience, and I know it's available to anybody, everybody. There's certainly nothing special about me. By virtue of our human birth, we are endowed with that innate capacity, the living presence of the divine within us here and now. And it's calling to be known. And in our suffering, we're going like this all over the place, but turning in the wrong direction. To get free of that suffering means turn to the source of grace, the source of the living presence of the divine, and take hold of the gift that it's given us of mantra, of Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya. So we'll chant for a few minutes now and just become absorbed in that sublime throb of consciousness, Om Namah Shivaya. I bow to the auspicious one. That's the meaning of it. That helps orient the mind. Bow to your source. Bow to the one who has created it all and is your very essence. Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya. And then we'll sit in the stillness and silently keep repeating wave after wave with the waves of the breath of Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. Shivaya. Om Namah 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 Shivaya. And we end with this prayer. And may all our practices truly benefit everyone. And may all beings know complete freedom from suffering. And namaste. So, taking refuge in mantra. It's taking refuge in your own divine self. The throb and emanation of the truth of who you are. So we take refuge in mantra throughout the day because it protects our awareness, it protects our mind, it protects our consciousness from getting dragged away by all the vagaries of the mind and the world full of other minds. So we take refuge, we keep coming back to empowered mantra, whether it's Om Namah Shivaya, Om Kalima, Hamsa, Aham, just ah. In the Dzogchen tradition, my Dzogchen teacher, the sacred sound, the mantra is just ah. The first sound of Om, ah. The emanation of all, filled with the fullness of infinitude of being. Ah. Om Mani Padme Hum. Om Tare Tu Tere Tore Soha. Om Tare Tam Soha. All these sacred, empowered mantras come through the lineages I've been, had the privilege of being given that to pass on. Just passing on what already exists, what is already throbbing within you. Just tune the mind, tune your awareness to the very source of it. Because that's the very source of mind. That's the very source of body. Om, Om, Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya. Keep coming home to that. And as we rest in that, we become more and more empowered to be free of suffering ourselves and be empowered to help free all beings from suffering. So may all our practices bear that fruit so that we can set all beings in all times and all places free from suffering. So thank you for coming this evening. Thank you for being ones doing practices that empower you, doing practices that then support you, walking wisdom, walking truth, love, compassion, wisdom, clarity of vision into the world at a time when it so desperately needs it. So thank you for being ones doing that. Thank you for the ways that you support Anam Cara by sharing our e-newsletter, looking at our videos, making comments, all very helpful and very much appreciated, and sharing those with others so that we can just make what these ancient wisdom traditions have given us available to everybody. That's our mission. So thank you for doing that, and thank you for your donations that support us in doing that. So that's very critical, and I really appreciate those who are making donations and supporting us in that way. So once again, thank you for that. With all my heart, with all my love, thank you for coming this evening and bringing the fullness of your sublime presence and sharing it with everybody. Jai Ma, Jai Ma.